We'll be looking at food security as one of the issues on our front burner as far as this country is concerned. With the population projected to reach 400 million by 2050, ensuring access to nutritious and affordable food, it's a pressing concern, of course. And Nigeria faces numerous challenges in achieving food security, from soil degradation and water scarcity to inadequate storage facilities and inefficient supply chain management. The consequences are stick, with over 40% of Nigerians suffering from malnutrition, while food imports drains our economy. But the question now is, where does the hope lies? There are merits of innovative solutions, of course, and policies that can change the tide, but we're headed in the right direction. And to help us understand all of this, we have joining us via Zoom to look at this complex landscape of Nigeria's food security and its challenges is Alhaji Danjuma, who is a farmer. He joins us from Sokoto, and he will share his ideas on how together we can build a future where every Nigerian has access to nutritious food, and how our economy can thrive. Alhaji Danjuma Ibrahim, good morning and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. And let me start by apologizing for keeping you waiting. We understand you've been waiting for a while. This is an emotional issue where we have got a lot of Nigerians talking, and we wanted to get a bit more of the voices across this country, which of course will also help you, dimension some of the issues as were raised in the phone-in session. Help us understand how much of a dilemma we are in as a country, considering the myriad of issues, that feeds into the whole concept of food security, whether it is the insecurity or the supply chain management or the exchange rate and all of that. How much of a dilemma, how much of a quagmire do we have in our hands?
Thank you. It's worth it waiting for as long as possible, because there's no burning issue in the whole world like food. And the way you are approaching, Trust TV is approaching this issue of addressing food problem is really, really fantastic. We have myriads of problems on this issue. You see, we have the farming aspect, but the major aspect that is creating problem for all of us is the political angle, which has always been the problem of agriculture in Nigeria and food security. A food secure country is a country that can think of innovating things, a country that can think of giving its citizens all they need to think and do things right. But a country that is not food secure have lost everything from the beginning. And you see, this issue we are talking about is as complex as any other aspect of Nigerians' existence. Agriculture used to be the backbone of the economy of Nigeria sometimes back. But how did we lose it? This happened through corruption, theft, and so many wrong and ills within our society, which has bred all the insurgencies and all the bad things we are facing now in Nigeria. The conversation you've been having, I was listening all along, and all the callers were calling and talking about very serious issues that needs to be addressed. The security angle is one. Farmers cannot go to the farm because they are not secure. The political side, that is the policymakers in Nigeria on agriculture, are not fair to us at all. I've always been saying this whenever I get any opportunity to say this. And I hope the government will really look at this thing the way it should be. Importing food, which I heard is what is on the front burner now and is going to happen, is one of the worst things that could happen to Nigeria again. Because we have lost near every aspect of agriculture to that for a very long time, which was part of what created the problem I said at the beginning, that we used to be food sufficient, we used to be exporters of so many kinds of food to the Western world or somewhere. But now, due to corruption and so many of these political ills that have bedeviled our society, we can't even feed ourselves, not to talk of export. And now the government is bringing back a policy of exporting jobs and importing poverty to Nigerians. And this political angle I'm talking about is the angle that is now creating so much problem. You see, from the farmer, the smallholder farmer whom you have, who is the engine room of our agriculture, who the time our population though was not so as much as it is now, but we were able to feed ourselves because the smallholder farmer was doing his farming and he was encouraged by the government of that time to do everything. So subsistence farming was holding the country and even having enough resources, enough to sell and make foreign exchange and the rest of them before. But now, with the policies of government and what has been happening with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and all the state ministries of agriculture, the smallholder farmer was made now to be an agent of theft and getting easy money. Right. So this now decided, okay, let's join because there's free money coming from this side, from fertilizer, from all the inputs, from seeds and the rest of them. Some people's bank accounts are fattening while Nigerians are dying.
Right. And
very few, the percentage of these people I'm talking about is less than, it's very insignificant.
Satisfied with the government's handling of this particular situation. Since last year, July precisely, it's almost over a year now, the Tinubu administration announced an emergency in the agriculture sector. Give me a sense of what you make of the several interventions that were either pronounced or that are trying to be implemented by the federal and subnationals across the country, and also if that is enough to actually make a difference looking at the scale of the problem that we're dealing with right now, from the supply chain management to the gaps in security and all the other issues that you've raised so far. Is it enough to actually make a difference?
You see, what I was saying boils to this thing you're asking, all these questions you have asked now. Without proper planning, what do you achieve? Without solving the problem of this smallholder farmer, I'm telling you, before we now go to the larger picture of commercial agriculture, which is the only thing that can solve our problem now. Political will to do the right thing is not there. Anko borrowers was brought, a very laudable idea, very good way to solve our food problem. But how did it end? So many people were, in fact, are into huge debts now because of that Anko borrower. Because they came with so much enthusiasm, embraced what the government brought, went into this agriculture, but at the end of the day, they went and met these trained thieves on the field who have been trained by the same policymakers we have leading the agricultural sector, going to do this farming, and almost everything they brought into this farming was stolen. Because the smallholder farmer is sitting down and waiting. All of you sitting there and listening to this conversation around Nigeria and everywhere in the world, if you are a Nigerian, you know this problem is on ground. You have tried farming one way or the other in your village, and you even know there is a slogan in all these languages of ours that how many people have you cheated this year? That's from the smallholder farmer in the village, whom you feel is a food. No, he's there waiting for whoever comes with money to farm so that he can take part of his own booty from him. And this thing is now creating so much problem that nobody is willing to even go into assisting these smallholder farmers to do that as outside the government. Because within the government, there's a cartel of those who are ready to steal whatever is brought into this agriculture. This dry season farming, let's take it as an example. This food emergency you said the government have put in place, the tinubu administration, a lot of billions of naira was pumped into this agriculture. African Development Bank gave, I think, about $134 million, which the government accessed about 100 million or thereabout for accelerated wheat production. What did we get at the end of it? Now that I'm talking to you, we have the whole money has gone down the drain. We have not seen commensurate output. The price of bread, the loaf of bread at the shelves there still remains the same or even going higher than it was before. If you have done the tonnage of wheat and the hectarage that is being branded all over the media now by experts, unquote, in agriculture, why don't we have any change in the price of bread or wheat in the market?
All right,
because it's not true. The figures being branded isn't true at all. And those people that have diverted all this money.
The latest move, which is the removal of duties on some grains, as one of the worst mistakes that we'll be making. But if you can hear me, sir. Hello, sir. We are dealing with an acute food shortage that has fed into the price of stable foods. We know we don't have sufficient reserves, to meet the demand, and something has to happen on the short to medium term until we are able to get some of the things you have said to place. If the current move by the government is a disaster as you have described it, what other options are available for us to really mitigate this rising food prices that is annihilating average homes in Nigeria to the level where you can't even guarantee a standard square meal in a day? What can we do on the interim to arrest this situation before we move to the point where we can fashion out policies that would enable us produce enough food to bring down food prices?
A caller just before I came into the program was clearly telling us from Benue that it's not that there's no food. People with higher purchasing power are coming in and buying all the foods, while the poor Nigerian who needs the food cannot afford it. If we say in the interim we are going to do something, let's solve this problem of the food being taken away first, which can be done today. That's before the shipments, which may have been pre-arranged. Because if you go to Belarus or any other country, take the scarce reserves you have, go and buy food and bring, the same food will find its way out of Nigeria to these same markets they are going to now. And you see, let's break down this thing. If, as a Nigerian, you don't have the money to buy this food, you cannot farm. If you bring the whole food in the world into Nigeria and I don't have the money to buy, what do I do? How will it impact any Nigerian? If a Nigerian cannot buy this food and Nigerian government goes to import whatever quantity of food they want to bring, with the same policymakers I was talking about, who in this importation in itself are set there and sitting down to make money out of it. Businessmen that align to the government have now dusted all their papers and are ready to make money out of the misery of these same Nigerians that are in trouble now. So why don't we start fixing the problem of this corruption before we now go into any other thing? We export our jobs, we import poverty into the country, and the same flourishing thieves sitting on tables with biros in Nigeria are still there, waiting to cash in on the misery of all Nigerians. Why are we heartless to this level? Why wouldn't the government face these people frontally and solve this problem first? Because the whole chain is corrupted. The whole chain of agriculture in Nigeria is corrupted. As I'm sitting now and talking to you, I'm in the farm doing over 250 hectares. This season now that I'm talking. After this discussion, I'm heading straight to the farm. No government agency or anybody in the government have approached me with one bag of fertilizer. One bag. The diesel I buy every day is the same diesel that some people are making billions out of to fire up my farm, my tractors, and all the implements I'm using in the farm. Somebody is making money out of my own misery. I am in the farm trying to make sure that even if it is those that I feed, I'm able to farm enough to feed them. And to make surplus, because this is more than subsistence. If you do 250 hectares of land.
On that point, just to double down on that point, because as you stated earlier, there have been some fine programs in the past, like the Anchor Boroughs, you said that on paper is supposed to be exceptional in delivering the goods, but they fail success eventually because of the politicization of the problem. We've heard from the Nigerian Senate in that report that has been mentioned time and time again by some of our callers there, how politicians are trying to hijack the whole thing or are trying to be a part of it, the distribution process. And you're a successful farmer who, as you've just pointed out, has not been approached by any government agency or individual to say, what do you need? How can we help? How can we intervene? How can we incentivize your own production? Give me a sense of what the government needs to do differently from what has been practiced over the years, leading us down this path of repeated failures, especially the agriculture sector, for instance. When it comes to distributing farm implements to smallholder farmers, to fairly, operators like you, for instance, who are operating at a much larger scale, for instance, how do we get it right? How do we get it right away from the politicization that has corrupted the system, as you've pointed out?
You see, the political will to solve the problem is the first thing we have to tackle. And if the government today stamps its feet on the ground and says, look, this thing has to change, it will start changing from today, not tomorrow. But when you are distributing fertilizer, you are now looking for the senators, members of House of Reps, to share these things too. You're buying how many thousand tractors? You are going to do political patronage with it. how can anything change? So this is what we are talking about. The government, you see, we all, like this livestock, there's a livestock issue now. There is a ministry is to be created for livestock. Yeah, a good idea. But we have livestock department in Federal Ministry of Agriculture that has been there for ages. Go and look at those that have passed through that department and what they have made, the wealth they have amassed. It's scary. All the livestock are impoverishing. In Sokoto here, a laudable project was brought about agriculture, this livestock, by the past government. And even the government now, the same APC brought it before the coming of a PDP government, and the same APC has come now who initiated it at the beginning. They procured bulls, very good breed of cattle, with very high yield of milk and the rest of them. Gave farmers here. All the projects is dead. All the livestock already slaughtered or sold. Very few are remaining. Why? Because all the plans put on ground have been boggled by these same politicians who believe whatever comes is for political patronage. And this thing, the summary to your question to me is the government should be ready to do the right thing. Serious reorientation, massive reorientation should be on two things in Nigeria now: tackling insecurity and tackling these agricultural bandits. Because this is why I call them, they are not better. The bandits you have in the field, these people are as well the same bandits as them. Because they keep stealing these monies being pumped into agriculture and leaving all the farmers suffering. Look, you ask yourself, in all countries of the world, I've been to so many of them, looking at this agriculture, you find farmers rich, flourishing, doing so many things, venturing into so many other fields because they make a lot of money. How do your farmers in your area live? How are they? This is the first question you ask yourself. Go and look at our farmers and see how poor they are, because they are in subsistence farming all their life up till now and can make nothing out of it. Because some people are positioned there, whatever policy, whatever is brought, there's something underneath it which you don't see, that theft is the main goal of the policy maker himself. So how do you achieve anything? Those in government are ready to get part of this money. Everybody that is associated with this, the man in the market who sells fertilizer is part of this cartel. All this fertilizer we are talking of that is being shared now to senators and the rest of them, the fertilizer being shared to states. You find these fertilizers in the market at exorbitant rates. A bag of fertilizer now that we are talking, I am buying today, is about 40-something thousand naira. A bag of fertilizer, urea. NPK is at 30-something thousand naira. One bag. And you expect a farmer who is, in fact, let me now even bring something to the notice of you, all the viewers, and you asking me. You see, this year, I interact with a lot of farmers because I have outgrowers and the rest of them. A lot of them don't even have the seed to plant. Seed to plant because they have eaten it. They are hungry. They don't have the money to go and buy. Yesterday, a relative of mine was with me. He's a very big farmer of onion, just as I am, because that is one of my major field. He was telling me yesterday that this year, the tin of seed I gave him was the only one he could plant. I said, how could you have waited for this year to come this farming season and you don't even have the seed? He said, how can I have the seed? Even the one you gave me, I was tempted to sell. So farmers don't even have the seed to plant.
All right,
and most of these state governments have not thought seed is important to give to farmers.
Alhaji, we are running
Because
out of time, but,
the policy makers, the governor might be very, the president will be serious doing other things.
Within a space of a minute. One of the biggest problems we also have, which you alluded to, was the issue of subsistence farming. From our statistics, we also see that the age of those involved in farming is on the aging side, if you like. How do you think, in spite of the problem that we are dealing with, and all the policy disconnect, how can we get young people, organize themselves into some kind of arrangements to encourage them to go into farming? Are there opportunities that are still good enough to encourage young farmers, to go into these sectors and help us not only meet food security, but adapt them into proper businesses, as we see with young Nigerians going into fintechs and the rest of them?
This is one of the biggest danger we're facing. You see, when they are not encouraged to farm, because every Nigerian now sees farming as something that does not bring anything. Not knowing that the next billionaires and everything in the world, all the next rich people, the fintech and everything you are talking of, agriculture is going to surpass all of them. The future is there. And it is what can stop all this banditry and insecurity, this agriculture, because it can be the largest employer of labor, the largest. In fact, with the land we have in Nigeria, everybody can be engaged in farming. Everybody can have a place there. With the mouths that are there waiting for food in the world, everybody in Nigeria can have a place in agriculture. But when we don't check and when we don't take care of this aspect of policymakers making it a milking ground, a place to amass wealth, a place to do political patronage, then we have not started anything. And we'll keep getting to this worst position because nobody, you see, everybody will have to eat. Everybody in Nigeria will have to eat.
Danjuma, we're going to have to wrap it up at this moment. Interesting conversation, by the way, and I do suppose that we're going to circle back in due time because there are several other reports that we'd love to expatiate on, especially as we dimension some of the problems within Nigeria's food production system. Thank you most kindly for your expert analysis on this particular issue, and we do appreciate you for stopping by this morning. Thank you most kindly for your time. Right.
Thank you very much. And I hope all we have discussed will be seen as encouragement to the government to fight this menace.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Danjuma, a seasoned farmer, speaking to us virtually from Sokoto on the state of Nigeria's food insecurity, as well as all the other issues and challenges within the agriculture sector, especially in light of food inflation, as well as all the other underlying issues within the Nigerian economy. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it will be time for us to take a quick look at some of the front pages of some select national dailies this morning, as we bring you up to speed with the stories making the headlines. Newspaper review is up next.